Hi guys, how you doing? Tom here from Level 40 Fitness. Today we're going to be talking about the high-low pulley system that is available for that Mirafit M210 half rack, squat rack, which as you can see behind me, I have attached to my squat rack currently. So first of all, let's talk about how it works. If I move the bench out of the way, ordinary on the M210 rack, you get a standard chin-up bar which goes between the cross beams. In order to fit this product, you need to take that off and attach this chin-up bar, which comes with the high-low pulley. This chin-up bar is actually an improvement on that one, because you can do overhand, underhand, and fairly neutral grips and wide grip chin-ups with the bar, which is really handy. One thing to bear in mind though, whereas you have the optionality with the original chin-up bar to have it at whatever height was good for you, on this it has to go at this particular height. What this does mean is if you've got it in a standard indoor room in the UK, certainly, like I have it here, as you can probably see, it's very close to the ceiling, so I've not actually managed to get the full range of motion when I'm doing chin-ups. I was thinking one way actually around this might be to get a couple of gym last rings or potentially some Swissies to hang underneath, so it gives you a little bit more depth and you can potentially get the full range of motion as a bit of a workaround, so that's just something to bear in mind. So the high-low pulley is attached at the back here, runs down all the way down there to the bottom. You've got a rack for the lat pull-down bar, which actually comes with it, which is a good solid piece of metal. It's nothing spectacular, but it's pretty sturdy and very functional. It's designed for obviously a wide grip for when you're doing lat pull-downs. And then when you're done with it, you just whack it up the top here. And then down at the bottom, you have a row which doesn't have a rack to stack it in and just sits down here flopping around, which is a bit of a shame. It'd be quite nice if they had something to clip it into, just to keep it out of the way. I guess you could always unattach it. Here is the bottom end of a high-low pulley. You can see how it's bolted on to the bottom here of the original rack, the cross member, and then weight horns, the low pulley, and that pulls up weight horns like that. As that mechanism comes down, it lands on the stopper here to stop you from damaging a rack or a screw underneath. This is the actual horn mechanism itself. As you can see, with a bit of use, it scrapes away the paint on the top. There's also a bit of wobble there, as a runner just sits on the bar without any bearings or rollers to hold it in place. It's not a problem, it's still fully functional. I'll also mention that I've actually been using 2-inch plates on the 1-inch horns, sometimes with the spring-loaded collars and sometimes without. And to say the truth, you don't need the collars, and the 1-inch horns do work with the 2-inch plates. There's nothing to worry about there. Never had one fall off or anything. And then works at the opposite end of the pulley system. The weight horns are on a runner, which just runs up and down this piece of metal. There's no bearings or anything on that, it's just metal running on metal, but with plastic grommets at the top and the bottom, to stop it from scraping. This works well enough, but equally, I've put a little bit of, I think, vegetable oil just on the metal to make it smoother. Obviously, if this is a premium product, maybe having some rollers or something would really make it smoother. And there's a tiny little bit of resistance just from a rub of the plastic on the metal, and that would probably eliminate that. But then again, bear in mind that M210 is not a commercial grade rack. it is a high-end home rack essentially, so it's not going to be top of the range. It was never intended to be. You'll notice the wire system on mine is a bit jingly jangly at the moment. This isn't ideal. You don't really notice it when you're using it, but it's still not great. But I think the fault actually lies with me, because turning this to its side, you've got some adjustment holes here, so I think I'd be able to tighten this up myself. You can have a little play and find out. But that should solve that problem. The horns themselves, which come in the rack, are for 1-inch weights, which I find really quite strange, because almost every other accessory you can buy for the M210 rack comes with 2-inch horns for holding. So for instance, you can get some clip-on horns which go on the side, and I believe you can also get a plate holder which kind of clips onto the back, which apparently you can actually use with this, which really turns it into quite a beefy rack. But equally, that will have 2-inch horns on it, so it's a really strange idea to include weight horns in this, which are only 1 inch. And what's also a bit disappointing is, for the sake of £5 in production, £10 in production, they could have put in some 2-inch adapters in there quite easily. I realise that you can buy them independently from Mirafit, but it feels like a bit of a cash grab. And you'd almost want the products to be £10 more expensive, but to come with the 2-inch adapters on there, as opposed to go through the faff of having to order them separately. As a mechanism itself, it's actually very smooth. Having a high-low pulley is great. Obviously, you can do your lat put downs, you can do your seated rows, you can equally from the low pulley, you can do curls, you can do upright rows. There's lots of options, but you can actually play around a little bit with it. And what I've done, put a couple of bolts in here and here, and a couple of pulleys. But that means that I can actually route a couple of cables from either the high or the low, run it through here, and you just come in here with a couple of handles and use the rack as a functional trainer. Now, although it's not marketed this way, this is actually what makes it really stand out as a product. So for only adding, I think this was bought for about £200 when I bought it, which is fairly reasonable just for a high-low pulley and beneficial. But when you start doing a little bit of DIY and tinkering with it, thinking you also get the updated chin-up bar, and on top of that, you can play around with it and get a modality of a cable machine or a functional trainer. It really does become worth the money and a worthwhile addition to it. I couldn't do without it now. The only thing better would obviously be to get a stack system, which you bolt on the side here, but which is a very budget home gym. And it's really handy to have. It's improved my training no end, and for 200 quid I think it's an absolute bargain. Right, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Many thanks. Cheers. Bye.